Everyone's chasing AI stocks, but the backbone of that is batteries and clean energy, which all run on critical materials. And there's one company that's going after a resource base so big that it could reshape global supply chains from the bottom of the ocean. That company is the metals company TMC on the market. In this video, I'll break down what TMC does, its massive funding deal with Korea Zinc, key numbers, technical levels, and why I think this could be one of the most overlooked speculative plays in 2025. TMC, the metal company, is pioneering deep sea metal mining of polymetallic nodules, which are kind of small rock like deposits on the ocean floor, which contain nickel, cobalt, copper, and manganese. These are some critical materials that are needed for EV batteries, energy storage, and renewable infrastructure. Unlike traditional mining, polymetallic nodules can be collected from the seabed with less land distribution, potentially offering a lower cost, lower carbon alternative to onshore mining. TMC controls exploration rights across 75,000 kilometers in the Clipperton zone of the Pacific Ocean through contracts sponsored by the Nauru and Tonga under the oversight of the International Seabed Authority, which is the ISA. TMC stock has been on the move recently. I've noticed, and that's why I wanted to bring the stock to your guys' attention. It has surged from the $4 to $5 range to over $9, and the catalyst I've seen mainly is on the 26th of 2025. TMC announced the closing of 85.2 million private placement with Korea Zinc, the world's largest lead zinc smelter. Korea Zinc's purchased 19 million common shares at $4.48 a share. The deal also included warrants, potentially taking the total investment above $120 million if fully exercised. TMC will use the funds to advance its Nori D project, which is its first commercial nodule collection system, and support the environmental review and permitting process under the ISA. So as we can see, this is a major vote of confidence from a global industrial player. Korea Zinc isn't just a hedge fund or a small company. It's a real operator with strategic interests in critical materials. Not only this, but we've seen recently other news come by that the U.S. has taken stake in minerals explorer TMQ, which I think is what drove the price up yesterday. As we saw, the price went up almost 30%. And I think that is a lot of the reason we saw that increase. But I think it's just an indicator of what's to come and what we can expect to see in the future as the U.S. is trying to invest more in its own infrastructure. And these resources are very finite and hard to come by. So being able to come by them in this form and being able to have this right in front of you, a company that wants to help support the government, is very strong case for this company doing well. Also, I want to point out that TMC estimates 1.6 billion tons of nodules, which contain 200 metric tons of nickel, 240 manganese, 42 metric tons of copper, and 7 metric tons of cobalt. Which is enough to sort millions of EVs, which are the future, and as we've been seeing, a lot of that is becoming adopted. Not only this, but TMC believes they could produce nickel equivalent at $4,000 a ton compared to the industry average, which is about 12 to 15,000 for onshore mining, which is an enormous cost advantage. Not only this, but as we've seen with the 85 million from Korea Zinc, TMC now has the runway to advance its pilot collection system, conduct environmental monitoring, and prepare for commercial operations, which are targeted in 2026 and 2027. Some of the main things I want to show is that the nickel market alone is expected to exceed 80 billion by 2030, driven by EV battery demand. If TMC can supply even a fraction of what with lower costs, the upside is very significant. Regulatory timeline, also we've seen that the ISA, the Seabed Authority, is currently finalizing exploration regulations. TMC expects its application to be among the first under the new regime, giving it a first mover advantage. As we've seen, they have been on point with these types of predictions, and it has come to fruition that they are one of the first companies in this market. Some of the sentiment I want to look at is that it's very initially it's going to be covered very limitedly by analysts and stuff, but their retail sentiment is rapidly going up. TMC has trended over the last month almost every day on StockTwits with bullish chatter tied to the Korea Zinc deal and expected regulatory updates. Social sentiment often spikes around ISA meetings or TMC press events. Insider ownership remains high as TMC's management and founders hold a significant stake, and Korea Zinc's investment aids strategic legitimacy. Analysts are starting to take notice too, as we've started to see them increase the watch list activity following the September financing, and we can see here the analyst average is 875 with highs of 12, and this isn't accounting for the recent news we've gotten, so I think it should be a whole lot higher. So let's look at the technicals. TMC setup is explosive if we're looking at it from a base standpoint, if you're into technical analysis, anything like that. After months of consolidation, it broke out above the 650 mark, which triggered heavy volume. The next resistance sits around this $10 to $10.50 mark, which is basically just a psychological level in a previous pivot zone that we've seen in the past. So if it breaks that with conviction, then I think the next mark is going to be 12 to 14 in the net leg higher. On the downside, I see 750 to 8 acting as strong support, which is the breakout retest zone. But I doubt it goes that low, as we've seen the momentum indicators such as the RSI, the MACD are remaining very bullish, as well as the 50-day moving average turning sharply up, which is confirming the trend reversal that we've seen based on the stock price in the last few days. This is kind of early stage breakout structure you see before speculative names run very hard on the market. So in all, I think TMC is not a risk-free story. There are regulatory timelines, environmental challenges, and execution on a deep-sea mining tech are real hurdles. A strategic investment from a $10 billion giant, though, is massive, and unique resources base, a tightening critical minerals market set for a stage for speculative upside. I personally view TMC as a small but high upside position in my bucket of stocks, especially with the stock still under 10 and catalysts lined up through 2026. TMC is not just another mining stock. It's trying to unlock a new frontier of resource production. There is $85 million in strategic investment, first mover advantage in the deep sea, polymetallic nodules, massive resource base, tightening critical minerals of supply and demand. And if the ISA approves its exploitation plan in 2026 and Korea Zinc support continues, this could be evolving into one of the more unique resource plays of the decade. Let me know your take in the comments. Is TMC a speculative moonshot or a future critical minerals powerhouse? Also, drop down any comments you have in the about other stocks. Make sure you like, subscribe, and peace out, guys. Thank you.